Greetings again. My name is Jesse, and this is a new effort. Um, I'm thinking of the audience. Okay, let me just stay organized. This is basically on who we should be as individuals when we're out in society. I do have a cough drop, hoping not to cough. Now, why is it important? And you always have to make your case. It's important because there's a lot of people who would like to have a different life but are finding themselves struggling for whatever reason. And I am a firm believer if you have information to share or information that will be helpful to people, then you should share it. We do live in a complicated society. As I was thinking about this, I was reminding myself that the reason we react the way we react to certain things is because of all the things that we see in our environment. So we're trying to be people of peace, but what we see in the television, on cable, on satellite, on the internet, listen to on the radio, is really working against us and is agitating us. It's giving us a certain spirit, a certain essence. And it's an essence that's contrary to what we should be doing, and it's contrary to the goal of wanting to have peace. On the first video that I did, I mentioned that a common experience among all people is to hurt, to experience pain and suffering. And I went through what causes this pain and suffering, whether it's early childhood abuse. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical or sexual. It can just be verbal abuse. Gives a person anxiety, depression, or both. And what's wrong with society, see, we're convinced that it's the other guy. We're okay, everybody else just has to change. If everybody would change and do what we want them to do, then everything would be fine. But the reality is that they are not going to change. Therefore, we cannot change them. We can change ourselves, and what we can change in ourselves are our thoughts. See? So I, as an individual, need to be a quiet person. In our modern day society, too many people spend their time looking around and criticizing their neighbor. Criticizing their neighbor's body style, criticizing their neighbor's hairstyle, the car they drive, the home they live in, maybe even the profession they're involved in. One of the things I find strange as a taxi driver is that I get all these waiters, part-time waiters at restaurants, trying to pretend that somehow they're superior to me. And I understand what contributes to that kind of psychological dynamic in the thinking brain. But that's our problem. We're spending too much time ridiculing and trashing our neighbor and not enough time on ourselves. Because while we're trying to knock other people down, life is continuing. Life is going forward. It isn't stopping for us. Now, some people may think that I'm trying to force them into my morality. I have studied this. I have a bachelor's in psychology, and for a long time I've been writing articles and doing this and that YouTube video when I feel there's a need for it. So having looked at it, I can tell you that if you don't start enjoying your life, life is just going to go by. Now, there's rules. There are rules. There's things that we were made to do And if we don't do them, we're going to suffer greatly. We're supposed to be, and I said this before, but one of the reasons I'm doing this is that I found out that one of the services that I used to post my articles on, because I hadn't written articles with them for a long time, closed my account, and all those articles are gone. And I do consider them valuable articles, wisdom, things that people need to know. Like, we need to know that we need to stop speaking with bad words. We need to stop agitating our neighbors on the road. We need to stop, yelling, screaming. We don't talk anymore. We're literally, this is ironic. People are standing next to each other, and instead of talking to one another, they're texting. I mean, they're right there. They could say to each other what they have to say to each other, but instead they're playing with little phones or texting. But when you do talk, you no longer have a normal voice conversation. You're yelling, and I can tell you because I observe all of this. And also, I think a great tragedy is that I observe a lot of people who are convinced that consuming pleasure, cheap pleasure, is the answer to life. That's their enjoyment. That's their fun. And like I said on the first video, if after you've done everything that you thought you were supposed to do to have the quote-unquote great life, you still find yourself unfulfilled, you still find yourself depressed or filled with anxiety or experiencing angst, pain and suffering, loneliness, boredom. And one of the things with me is I happen to believe that repetition, it's a very good teaching tool. Sometimes you can repeat something so much that you bore the person. But I do believe in repetition. Now, I as an individual should get 8 hours of sleep, restful sleep. That is important because health is important. That's where I divide things. I put things in the difference between health and illness. It's a soda a week, it's okay. 3 liters of Coca-Cola a day is not okay. So we got to decide, do we want to be healthy people or do we want to be sick people? Do we want illness or do we want the benefits of health? And as an individual, I got to structure my life, my 24-hour cycle, as I call it, in a healthy manner. That means I need to sleep. I need to drink the necessary amount of water. A lot of food is still missing minerals and vitamins, so we do need some supplements. And you can do a little bit of research and find out which supplements are actually good for you. Keeping a clean home. This is about what I should be as a person. I should keep a clean car, a well-maintained car, where I check the oil, because I need it. If I don't maintain it, it's going to break down, and I'm going to be out there somewhere stressing out over it. Now, the cars will break down, but it's better to maintain them and prevent how many times they will break down. So all these essentials that we forget, eating 3 meals a day, 3 healthy meals a day, having a good attitude, not a bad attitude where we harshly criticize people around us. What should our mindset be? I was telling this individual who I have conversations regularly that I've realized that it's time to be, for me, it's time to be meek and humble and be grateful that I don't deserve anything, but yet God continues to give, and He continues to give because here I am. I can laugh. I can watch an action-adventure movie. I can enjoy the company of friends, the company of family, or maybe even date and find somebody special. And no, the next video series after this will have to deal with society. And I can deal with it right now because really, to tell somebody, listen, you're not practicing the basics of life isn't hard. There's people who wake up and don't shower and go to work. People who wake up and don't eat. I'm surprised. I'm taking people to work in a taxi. They came from their home or from a home, someone's home, and they're buying food and eating it in the taxi on the way to the work. So it's obvious they didn't have time or are not living the kind of life where they can have a meal at home, where they can have breakfast at home before they go to work, which is a healthy thing. When you're subject to what you buy out in the street, you don't know if you're getting a healthy meal. It may taste good, you may enjoy it, but is it a healthy meal? So here we are living these lives that are inconsistent with health. Getting 5 hours of sleep. I've taken many people to work who tell me they barely got an hour of sleep and they have to go to work. And I can tell you that's very unhealthy. But many people will say, well, I know all this stuff. And if you know it, and you have no problems, then there is no problem. But if you know it and you're not working it, you're not using the information, then there is a problem. You know, the world isn't going to get bad. It isn't. So we live in a society. So let me jump from one. I mean, it's just a basic conversation of how to be a nice person, how to be a pleasant person, how to be a person focused on you and not necessarily about your neighbor. And I will say this again, I am very security orientated. And you need to know, you need to be awake and be looking around you. And the time that you need to be concerned about your neighbor is when your neighbor is coming in your direction with the intent of harming you. You can read that person's body language, and it's obvious to you that that person is coming with the intent of causing you harm. And the answer to that is to have weapons and be prepared to defend yourself. And what I mean by being prepared to defend yourself is be prepared to use the law with your weapon. Know when you can use a weapon. When your life is in real danger. Hold on, let me clear up the issue. It's when you think your life is in real danger. Okay. I've been watching police videos, and on certain occasions I've heard police officers tell the person who used force to defend themselves, under those circumstances, paraphrasing, but they've said, under those circumstances, you should not have been afraid of your life. The parameters, the structures are not set by police officers. It's that you are afraid of your life. It's not that a police officer believes that under certain circumstances that you confront it, you did not have the right to be afraid for your life. That's not what the law says. The law says that you believe your life was in danger. Not that a police officer will agree with you that under those circumstances your life was in danger. Okay. So when confronting society, we should be a person of peace. We should. Oh, that's another thing. When I say quiet music, it's great that you enjoy your music, but you don't have to turn up the volume so loud that you will annoy other people. Other people may not like what you like. And this is essential because I know that even though there's a lot of agitated people, uptight people, angry people, violent people, the majority are not going to stop and evaluate themselves and recognize their errors and work at changing their errors. The majority won't. But there are many people who do want to change and be a better person. And it isn't that hard. It really is not that hard. One, we shouldn't expect that much from society. We shouldn't expect that much from politicians, from business people, even from religious people. The person that we can count on to be our best advocate, the person that we can count on to serve us the best, is ourselves, because we know what we want. But in wanting things, we have to be realistic. Will I be able to accomplish this? And a lot of what we want to accomplish but cannot accomplish has to do with what's actually in our environment. Is the right kind of university in our environment? Is the right kind of employment in our environment? Do we live in an impoverished area with a lot of gang violence that threatens our personal safety? You know, and we have control. El Paso, Texas doesn't want to cooperate as far as finding the kind of employment that I got a university degree in. I'm not cemented to El Paso, Texas. If it really bugged me that much, I could leave. And I could leave knowing that I have a university degree. And I could go somewhere where university degrees are actually respected. And that's sometimes something that you deal with. But going from the individual to society, society for almost forever has always been organized around the merchant class manipulating the politicians and the religious trying to manipulate the politicians. And you always have these, what I call statesmen, these people for some odd reason are supposed to represent the wisest of us all. And and everybody's supposed to listen to them. And then of course you got different kind of special interests trying to manipulate society. And we're just, you know, sometimes it appears like we're just in their way. Because honestly, they could care less about us. And it isn't about us letting them run our life. They create an environment and we decide where in that environment we want to participate. We don't necessarily have to do what they say. We don't have to be a lawyer if we don't want to be a lawyer. We don't have to be a doctor if we don't want to be a doctor. Now, there is slight concern on my part because there's a lot of dissatisfied people. They're on the superficial level, it appears that they are successful professionals. But as individuals, they're very dissatisfied. And I see a lot of people turning away. And if you're if you're in an environment that is you consider to be toxic, the way that human nature is, it's understandable that you would want to leave pain and look for pleasure. But you gotta ask yourself, is the pain that I'm feeling inside this group, this system, this hospital, this university, this restaurant, is it the result of me not being able to live a good life? Or is it because the individuals around me are attacking me? And the majority of the answers, even though people won't realize it, is because people don't know how to live good lives. They don't know how to be at peace as a cook, a waitress, a security guard, a janitor, a police officer, a nurse, an architect, a lawyer, a doctor, you know, and they're acquiring all this angst, all this hurt. And the idea that pops up is, well, this environment is stressful, painful. Let me go over here where I think it's pleasurable. So they leave their profession. Now, the problem there is that you didn't resolve anything. You could have very easily have learned the skills to be at peace where you are. And I do believe that earning a good income is important for a lot of reasons. One is to save money for that rainy day, for that day that you're diagnosed with an illness and you're going to be purchasing medications for the rest of your life. And it is sad that we really are structured in a negative way. We're very unhealthy people. We're taught to be unhealthy, but we don't have to stay a conditioned unhealthy person, a brainwashed unhealthy person. See, it appears to be a system of illness where politicians, religious people, merchants, business people are investing in mental illness. And the reason they're investing in mental illness is so they can control you. And the control is that they want you to continue to purchase their products. A person at peace, comfortable, and life doesn't have to purchase a $1,000 phone for a cheap pleasure. There's a lot to do in life to get healthy pleasure. And again, since I do believe in repetition, I believe in positive psychology. And again, I gotta say it, even though people don't want to hear it, everything starts with God. After you have solved your relationship with God, you understand your purpose because God reveals your purpose to you. But God is not saying that you got to use 100% of your energy to be engaged in this purpose. God understands that we need to spend a little time away to relax and do things that are pleasurable, like finding a good spouse and having children and living that life where we have joy in raising our children. So this is everything that people, it is possible that people can become so selfish in the pursuit of cheap pleasure that no more babies are born and the human race disappears. So I, as an individual, need to live a healthy life with the basics. That's what this is about. The basics. I need an income. My home needs to be clean. I should be respectful to my neighbors. I should be a quiet person. I should be living a healthy life by pursuing healthy personal pleasures like music and literature. And I should understand that I've been made to be a husband and a father, a member of society. I need to know what's going on around me. It must be nice to just spend our day ridiculing without spending any time doing any research, any study to find out what are the issues and how we can contribute and move politicians in the right direction. There's an imbalance. There's a very imbalance in the power dynamic between citizen and politician. The merchant, the religious, the politician, the statesperson, and members of interest groups are in control. And all they care about is the infighting amongst themselves. And you and I are going to suffer the consequences of their poor decisions. Government should be small as possible, concentrating on the basics. It is my responsibility to take care of my life. It is not my responsibility to burden my neighbor with the responsibilities of my life. And we have to seriously ask ourselves, were we brainwashed into believing that we need a 4-bedroom home with 2.5 baths, a Hummer, a Lexus, trying to think here, a Ferrari, and being filthy rich from an internet company? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Are we really living a natural life? A life that really seriously deals with who we are as a person, as the person that we were made by God? Say, people trash religion people trash Christians. But the reality is, excuse me, Christianity makes good people, in the most part. Pleasant people, polite people, kind people, decent people, good people. People who are functioning, focusing on themselves, being personally responsible and being self-reliant, and doing for themselves and doing for their families and their communities. Charity, most charity comes from religious people, not for government. Government is very bad. The government is very bad at using our money. They use our money for corporations. And America still has hungry children. America still has homeless children. America still has children in the inferior system of public education. So a lot of people, a lot of Democrats want to pretend that government is the answer. Now, in a video essay about how the individual should live a basic, pleasant, enjoyable, acceptable life, speaking on politics is important because it creates the environment that we live in. And we're brainwashed to believe that the only resources that are available are the resources that are created by the environment that the merchant class, the politicians, the religious, the statesmen, special interest groups create. But what if we create our own environment? What if we create our own environment? What if we start from scratch and create a different economic system where instead of relying on major corporations, we rely on each other? I know for a fact that you have been spending time in a warehouse or in a company, and you have learned certain skills. You have learned how to create furniture. You have learned how to fix electronic devices. Now you can take that knowledge, like knowledge in fixing cars, and bring it to a market system where neighbors are helping each other with the skills that they have learned in these corporations. We don't have to live according to what they say we need to live. We don't have to watch television Monday through Friday at the hour that they say. We don't even have to watch what they say we need to watch. There's so much creativity out there, and it's being lost. And in the modern technological world, it's a shame where people can burn their own music CDs, burn their own DVDs, produce their own YouTube videos. You could be producing let's call it a television series out of your own home, and it will be entertaining for people to watch. Which means we don't need the major, what do we call them? Well, television stations. We don't need Hollywood. Well, you got to be careful, because I do believe that it is a shame that churches don't have a production department to produce family entertainment. Now, I gotta stop there because I've seen a lot of Christian movies and they're hard to watch. They're not structured in a format where the average individual can deal with them. And you have to learn how to, you center a conflict, and your scenes are related to this conflict and they're related to each other. And there's this thing that I call stop and go. And I see it a lot from Hollywood movies. Is they'll do this scene, and in the scene the actor is like they're lost somewhere, and the audience is just waiting for the person to deliver the line, whatever the line is. They're just waiting, and then all of a sudden the actor wakes up and delivers the line. I don't know if it's because of drug use or exhaustion or whatever the case may be, but it's contrary to the normal psychological operations of an individual. And I mention that because there's opportunity, but you also have to understand that the human is structured in a particular way. And psychology matters. If you're going to communicate to people, you're going to have to communicate in a way that people organize the information. That's why I like to say structured. I started with talking about the simple basics of an individual's life. Then I went into how society is structured. And now opportunity. It's easy to point the finger of blame and this is wrong and that's wrong and this is wrong, and not offer any healthy suggestions. You as a person, as a youngster, or if you are a youngster, you like music. As young people, we like music. For some reason, we get to be a certain age and we're no longer listening to the music we like to listen to. We're no longer reading from the authors that we like to read from. We're no longer watching the type of romantic, comedy, action adventure, sci-fi, call it what you will, entertainment that we used to like. Now, don't poison your brain with bad messages. And a lot of stuff that's out there is filthy. Bad words, pornography, nudity. I'm not a prude. If you get married, you're going to encounter a naked body. But you have to understand, I mean, it is, when I sit there and meditate on everything that is associated to having a romantic interest, it is overwhelming. It isn't just being there. It's being there and doing 101 things to make your romantic partner happy. See, just being there. And if you don't know that you're there to converse, that you're there to joke around, that you're there to contribute to a healthy home, that you're there to be inspiration and positive attitude, a contributor to positive attitude. And of course, when you start talking about sexual intimacy, there's a lot that you should be doing, and just being in close proximity to your romantic interest just doesn't fulfill the mission. And granted, it's a failure in men because that's how men are. Men are, for the most part, trained to be immature, emotionally immature, sexually immature. There's nothing wrong with talking about what's going on. There's a lot wrong with dominating. I always said we shouldn't complicate our friends, family members, romantic interest lives with our challenges. We should deal with our challenges so we resolve them and we're not constantly obsessing on them. See, that's a basic of personal life. Understanding that that's what we have to resolve our issues so we're not a burden to the people around us. We're supposed to be pleasant, enjoyable entertainment to our friends, to our family members, and to our romantic interests. But we're living, agitated lives. And we're looking for pleasure to mask the pain and suffering because we just don't know how to do things the right way. We don't know how to be people that can have classical music in the background while we're enjoying reading a book. We must be doing something. We must be looking at a YouTube video on our smartphone. We must be texting, and it's unnatural. Devices are helpful, but they're not life. And, healthy food is healthy food. And for the most part, we're not eating healthy food anymore. If it comes in a wrapper, simple rule, if it comes in a wrapper, in a sealed wrapper, it's unhealthy. Twinkies are unhealthy. Cupcakes are unhealthy. In a wrapper. If you make it fresh from scratch, it's not unhealthy. Tortillas come in a wrapper. They're unhealthy. If you make them in your home from scratch, they're not unhealthy. And of course, everything is moderation. It is good to enjoy some things, but we must limit ourselves. One beer is okay. 10, 15, 20, we're in the realm of illness. And when we used to be smart, when we used to know these things, when we used to live lives, pleasant lives, when we're pleasant people and we're not attacking our neighbors, we're not those people anymore. And there are people who will say, everything this person is saying on this video doesn't relate to me. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm talking to the people who are having challenges as they're living their day-to-day lives. Thank you for listening, and I wish you well.